Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in the world of comic books and entertainment. Across 5 decades, I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in streaming, in movies, in comic books, we are covering it and discussing it right here. Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. You already heard my intro. Thanks for coming back, for visiting, for being here for this extra bonus episode of 2026. You couldn't keep me away. I had a few more things on my mind. Figured I'd have an audience of most excellent listeners to debate and to discuss all this with. And here we are. It is the great wind down of 2025, and looking over the past year and seeing everything that's occurred in the comic book industry. And again, this is a great platform. Comic books have become a platform for every other kind of realm of exploitation, for toys, for cartoons, for streaming, for movies, for video games. The video games, I think, are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Just since I did the last episode, the Deadpool and Marvel Rivals got announced and has gotten everybody crazy, because it is the one great thing that Marvel did this year was Marvel Rivals. And we discussed it early on in the year when my 22-year-old son is playing Marvel Rivals, is engaging in video games again after cycling out of them like my 25-year-old son did. Then it's something to talk about. It was something that was not just affecting the Chase Liefelds of the world, but my friends' junior hires, my friends' 10-year-olds, my nephews, 11, 16. Everyone's been waiting for Deadpool to join the game. And so they finally made that announcement, and it's very exciting. And it's going to, honestly, people ebb and flow, and the cycle can sometimes happen within a 6 to 9 to 12 month period. And this will certainly bring people back. So I think the gaming aspect of comic books is only going to grow and expand. But the comic books of comic books, we discuss it all here. We try and draw from history and apply it to what's going on in the modern day. And the modern day is very exciting. We have kind of awakened from this crazy malaise. And comic stores seem to be doing better. Comic shops are reporting more robust sales. Younger generations are discovering comic books as a legitimate form of storytelling. And they're doing that from a lot of social media, from their TikTok, from their Instagram, from their X, wherever they interact with it. I'm well aware that Facebook is seen as the grandpa network, and of which I'm not there yet, but I probably fit into that demographic. That's where we're at. Comic books are being rediscovered, or being discovered, period, by an all-new audience who likes what they see. Maybe they've been binging on manga. You guys, we all know, you don't need to leave it in the comments. We all know how well manga is doing. I've mentioned it multiple times in the last year. When you go to Barnes & Noble, brand new Barnes & Noble opened just up the street after not having a bookstore in our cities, 2 cities, for the last decade. When Borders crashed, because there was a Borders in all of these different areas, in Yorba Linda, in Brea, gone. Then in maybe 4 years ago, 2021, coming out of the pandemic, there was an electrical fire. There was something that happened at our big giant Barnes & Nobles in Santa Ana, Barnes & Noble, and it went out of business. And suddenly multiple regions were without big time bookstores. I love mom and pop bookstores. I buy from used bookstores. I love going there. I love stuff. There's all sorts of stuff that you can get at a mom and pop that you can't get at Barnes and Nobles. But for that, hey, honey, we've just had dinner. Why don't we swing through this bookstore and check out some books? Especially if you're walking in one of the major malls. It's a place to interact with books, with tactile written stories. Isn't that great? The written word. So we just got one back, and manga, again, it's the smallest representation of American publishers that I've seen since I've been doing this, since manga crashed the system. I was like, wow. In other areas, earlier in the fall, there's an incredible outdoor mall in Los Angeles, one of the busiest, one of the biggest. It's called the Grove. I had a signing there in 2017 for my Deadpool Bad Blood. I'd always wanted to have a book signing. So many of you guys showed up. I see those photos. I see you guys out on the circuit. Really, a really impressive Barnes & Noble. And it has they had an upgrade. They did a whole redo of the store. And so Joy and I were there, and we were wandering around. And of course, I made my beeline up the 3 escalators up at the top, 3rd floor, to where the graphic novels were. And I was like, wow, this is a smaller section for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image than I had anticipated, or that was there a few years ago. But it is nothing compared to the minimal 2 shelves in the newest Barnes & Noble here in Brea, California. 2 shelves, 1 shelf DC, the other shelf half Marvel, then Dark Horse, Image. It is so depressing to see that the American publishers, the Western publishers, are given such little representation, but they need to crowd them out because they got to put out there what's selling. You've all heard that by the time at airports, for instance, at the airport bookstores or at the books that are sold at the markets in your airport, whether it's a kiosk or the snack shop, when the guy puts the books out and comes around to restock them several hours later, if your book hasn't sold through, they move you down or they move you behind. They're in the business of putting product on shelves that moves, and that goes for the bigger stores or just the kiosk. So you can't blame them for putting all the manga out. Giant, massive manga section. And people were packed. There were buddies, there were girls, boys, parents. Everybody was swarming, grabbing different manga. It's fun. Sometimes it's fun to watch and observe and find out what's got the culture going. So in regards to the comics, we've talked about manga. We know how big it is, but that's still that manga can still explode in the mass markets. And I can still tell you that your comic store is going to tell you that they're doing really good with Marvel, DC. Not so much Marvel. That's kind of what we're going to here to talk about today. But Image and DC have had a tremendous 2025, and part of what we're here to discuss today, because I really feel strongly, being a veteran of this, I always, I go on in the header, the first thing you hear when you click on this show, and I talk about my experience. It matters. I watch NBA and NFL shows with guys that played for 5, 7, 12 years, and they're experts on who qualifies for the Hall of Fame, who's the GOAT. It's funny to me. Running backs, receivers, linebackers, nobody is sitting there. Very few guys are sitting there with 40 years experience who have been there the longest. I mean, I love the guys on the Fox Sunday panel. They're my faves, Howie and Terry. And I mean, look, Terry won his fair share of Super Bowls, and the Pittsburgh Steelers dominated when I was a kid. That's when he dominated. He is still capable, from his point of view, having taken snaps under center, being the all-star Super Bowl winning quarterback. He is qualified. His accolades, his experience, to talk about today's game. It hasn't changed that much. It's just faster. The schemes are different, but the basics are there. When I talk about my experience, it's because, look, when I got into comics, the kings of comics were Frank Miller, John Byrne, George Perez. The undercard right under them was Howard Chaykin, Jim Starlin. These were the big guys making the waves, grabbing people's attentions. They were the innovators. Then my generation happened, and there's no doubt about it. If you go just by the best-selling, it's Jim, it's Rob, it's Todd, that's us. I can say my name. Those records have my name on them. We kind of dominated for about a 15-year period. Then the 2000s came along, and I don't think it's a secret to anybody. And I used to try and deny it, that Marvel was doubling down on writers instead of artists. But in hindsight, there's no doubt they went all in on writers. We've discussed why a writer, if you tell everyone that this guy is the most important guy in comics, and you can squeeze 4 to 5 titles out of him, then that's a better bet for you, because an artist is really generally especially since the 90s. There aren't a lot of guys who can do 2 books a month. There aren't a lot of John Byrne, Jack Kirby's, John Buscema's who are that prolific and keep the bar that high. So Marvel went in on writers. The superstars of the early 2000s, 2 of them, Mark Millar, Brian Bendis. Civil War, House of M, Old Man Logan. These were their big authors, and they were the guys that they promoted and made sure that they were writing the big events and had the most advertising dollars committed to their names, and it worked. It worked out great. They sold a lot of books. The artists were diminished in the sense that they weren't allowed to do long runs. They didn't trust them. They didn't want to get into a situation where the artist would not make the deadline. So what happened is guys like Steve McNiven became event artists. He's your artist on Civil War. He's your artist on Old Man Logan, both of which are written by Mark Millar. Olivier Coipel actually did, a nice, juicy run on Thor. But for the most part, I think of Olivier as an event guy. House of M, Siege. He did a generous amount of AVX, Avengers versus X-Men. Maybe 2010, 2011, 2009. Don't know, hold me to it, but he was their event guy. And Dave Finch did Ultimate X-Men. He did Avengers. He was bouncing all around as much as they could kind of plug him in. He did Ultimatum with Jeff Loeb. By 2008, 2009, you had Loeb leaving DC, going to Marvel, and he certainly was a box office writer, and Red Hulk was a big deal. Shook the rafters, moved the needles. And so writers were where they really doubled down and where they put the focus. It didn't seem as though the artists were as important because there was no long-term artistic commitment. When Grant Morrison came on X-Men, and people like myself and all my friends were so excited, they just couldn't give him a consistent art team. Frank Quietly was in and out, was very sporadic, was not able to kind of deliver alongside Grant. I maintain had he done the first 12 issues, that would rival any X-Men run of any time period. But they started filling the gaps and making bad calls, putting artists whose work did not belong. Go back 25 years. So the 2000s, 1980 isn't that far from then. It's a lot further now, duh. But in the early 2000s, the X-Men were still regaled as the top franchise in the comic book industry, and it was the home of John Byrne, Dave Cockrum, Paul Smith, Art Adams, Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, Will Portacio. So when you brought in kind of a guy with a rough line and maybe unrefined, not as attractive a style is the kindest way I can put it, the fans were like, "What's this?" And it's when people started walking away from the book. Afterwards, they plugged holes with all manner of different artists and different runs, and they kept relaunching and relaunching and relaunching. And the only consistent in all of the different relaunches was the names, the musical chairs of the writers that they were promoting. So you go into the 2010s to the 2010s to the 2020s. And now you've got Jason Aaron. Now you've got Jonathan Hickman. You've got new names that are moving in. Bendis is starting to burn out. And I remember, I'll even say his name. Torpedo Comics, Robert Quinn, the manager, former owner, before he sold it to Torpedo. And I remember, I think they put Bendis on Defenders, maybe 2015, 16, 17. It was, it could be as late as 2018. And I went in that night, Wednesday night, to get the books, and there's a big, giant, unsold stack of Defenders, reflecting the Netflix Defender series, written by Bendis. And Robert Quinn, manager of the store, said, "I can't give this stuff away. Man, Bendis is done at Marvel. He is spent. Nobody buys his stuff." When you give yourself over to the machine and you do 4 books a month for 14 years, however long, they're going to be done. You've done the Avengers, you've done the X-Men, you've done Spider-Man, you've done Daredevil, you're doing the Defenders, a million books that I missed in between. They burn out on you. You signed a contract, maybe he didn't, but you means these writers. They sign contracts, they do these big deals, and I've talked before how people don't like to know the numbers, but they were signing some of these writers to $1 million deals, 7 figures a year. because they wanted to keep them away from DC, and they had run the numbers. And I've told you before, the guy who really taught the numbers people at both companies how to scheme their costs on the books was Jeff Loeb. He brought a very television / publisher approach, and he taught me all about it when we worked together at Awesome Comics. And he said how he sat down with DC. I've covered this before in previous episodes, so if you're hearing about it for the first time, then it's new to you. And if not, it's necessary to retread this and kind of go over it. He said that after his first big hit series with DC went to do the sequel, he said, I want you to take the amount of money you sold of my singles, the individual issues, of my trade paperback, of my hardcover, put that in a pool. I want a guarantee of that money. I want a portion of that money. That's the budget that we're going to look at, that you're going to pay me. So he established his rate going forward on that. That, Jeff was very liberal in teaching the world this aspect. In the same way that Todd McFarlane would call up artists like myself and say, are you aware of what you can make with your royalties if you ink, if you plot, if you do all this? Add to the pie, make more money. Todd and Jeff were the most kind of financial savvy guys that I had met in my experience, especially early on in the comic book industry. And I know that Jeff spread his knowledge of how this should be approached. This is how it should be approached. You've got to take my anticipated sales, my future sales, like my future, and it's the way the Hollywood was doing this at that time prior to streaming. And you read all about it, what's going on with Netflix, what's going on with Warner Brothers, all this stuff that's kind of grabbing the headlines. If I remember by the end of the show, I'll comment on it, because there's some stuff to say, not a lot, but there's some approaches, some ways to look at this stuff. But when you were doing a deal for maybe your star actor, your director, you negotiated a percentage of anticipated earnings. If the movie is going to hit like we anticipate it's going to hit, I want a percentage of first dollar gross, so that you're not giving me, after all the deductions, I'm getting first dollar. I'm getting part of that weekend earnings, the stuff that comes off the top, not the stuff that's left afterwards. That approach, that movie making, basically profit sharing, is what Jeff Loeb brought to how I know for sure Marvel started applying it and justifying in how they could secure some of these names and pay them seven figures and go, well, we're going to sell these, and then we're going to do and why they also had to commit so heavily to each of these names. Because if you're committing seven figures to a guy, then you're going to need to make that seven figures back. So we're going to take that number, the launch number, then we're going to count the trade paperback and the hardcover, and we're going to push those hard because we need those to sell, because we got to justify what we've paid and get to profits as fast as we can. And they did. No one's saying they didn't. But when you sign that deal, you are then the companies to position. We want you to do this. We want you to do Doctor Strange. We want you to do the Hulk. We want you to do Spider-Man. We want you to do Silver Surfer. We want you to do them all in 1 month. We're not doing the crossover with you this year because you've done two of them. We'll come back to you. We'll get to you here. You are theirs to program. They're going to call you up and say, do this, this, and this. And you don't have a whole lot of wiggle room. You may be able to say no to Deadpool, but you still got to do the Defenders, okay? And by the end of some of these writers, they were done. They were spent. And Dan DiDio pounced on Bendis too late because he overpaid him for all his DC work, and that Superman stuff was poorly received. There's a reason DiDio, that was kind of his Hail Mary. Oh, I'll get one of these guys at Marvel who used to be a big name, but he hasn't worked with us, and we'll make it a big name, and it didn't work out. And of course, Marvel, to prove the point that I'm about to bring up to you, is going back to some of these older names in order to kind of get some attention and to get you guys maybe refocused on them, because what's happening at DC is talent is shining. What's happening at Image is talent is shining. And I think what I discovered in 2025, it's the year that we remembered talent sells books, not characters. I don't buy characters. I'm only buying Absolute Batman because I like what Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta and their kind of pool of industry all-stars that jumps in to do fill-ins and specials. I like what they're doing. I buy creators. I always have. I don't buy characters. Never have. The X-Men managed to keep me But they almost lost me in the 80s with the Romita Jr. run. And ask a kid in a comic store in 1984 if it wasn't a brutal, like, oh my gosh, after Byrne, Cockrum, and Paul Smith, we got John Romita Jr. JR Jr., great on Spider-Man, great on Daredevil, bad fit. This happens. There's bad fits. It's your job to not be the bad fit, to avoid being miscast. We've all seen, I was hearing about how much better a movie that was just released this last weekend would be if another guy had portrayed this role, because they didn't think that the character embodying the lead character, the actor embodying the lead character, allowed us into the psyche of the character as much as, say, this guy. We are a world of comparison people. We compare. You guys have always followed the talent. You followed the talent when Image Comics was born. You followed me, you followed Todd, you followed Jim, you followed Valentino, Eric Larson, Mark Silvestri, Will Sportaccio, all of us. You were doubled down on talent. As I've stated many times, you bought Rob Liefeld #1. It was called Youngblood. You bought Todd McFarlane #1. It was called Spawn. You bought Jim Lee #1. It was called Wildcats. You invested in us. You took that ride. And we built entire libraries, catalogs, worlds, universes based on your interest and your trust. And you built us up and you carried us. Marvel, the tail started wagging the dog about 15 years ago, maybe 13 years ago. Once Avengers became a billion-dollar franchise, they started taking their cues from the movies, and everything had to reflect the movies. Rather than the movies, looking at the comic books and beloved storylines and beloved character interactions to formulate them, they decided, we'll just dictate this. We'll just make this stuff up as we go. And I'm King Poobah, whoever your name is, and I'm going to tell the publishers, I'm going to tell the people doing the comics, they need to reflect what I want to see coming in the movies. And here's the script. By the time you see a movie, we could say Doomsday, we could say Deadpool Wolverine. By the time you see it, everybody on the creative end already read the script 2.5 years earlier. And then the movie got filmed a year later, and then it was a year in post and production and promotions, and then it hit the cinema. But it's crafted way in advance. Sony greenlit the Spider-Man movie in 2000 and started filming it. Marvel immediately scrambled. We're going to have new eyeballs on us. It was a wise scramble. It was a good move. It was a smart move. We're going to have new eyes on us because of this movie. We're going to have fresh readership. We can't make the same mistake that we just made with the X-Men in the summer of 2000. We didn't think that it was going to work. Everybody at Marvel Publishing thought the X-Men movie by Fox was going to be a big giant flop, not a big giant hit. And afterwards, there was a lot of hand-wringing, there was a lot of blaming, there were firings as a result of the fact that they didn't have enough comics in the stores to capitalize on the interest in the movie. By the time Grant Morrison came on the X-Men, they were about to film X2. And the feeling was that Marvel left a lot of eyeballs, not just money, eyeballs, interest on the table by not walking alongside the movie. A movie adaptation is one thing. Having the comic books reflect what they're seeing so that when they come in the store upon leaving the theater and want to seek this stuff out because curiosity drives so much, they want something that reflects that. The comic books of the summer of 2000 did not reflect the excitement that was being generated from the film, which went on to be a big hit, especially in $2,000. So Sony gets the rights out of the bankruptcy. They write the big check. If you go back and look at the reports, they gave Marvel a $25 million check up front in the courtroom, which was considered a walloping amount of money 25 years ago. And Sony's controlled Spider-Man ever since, and they still do. All media rights. They eventually made a deal where Marvel got their licensing priorities. But when you go see Spider-Man this summer, that dollar, the first dollars go to Sony. They had the report on the last one, the third one, which basically said Disney got $100 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. If you're a producer and you get $100 million, it's a big deal. Disney's a producer on this movie, and that's a movie that did plus $1 billion plus. This summer, Spider-Man, I think, is going to run the same way. So Disney gets $100 million, but they don't get the market share. They don't, and market share is important. Market share impresses stockholders. It drives investments, money, direction, decisions. They get big box office wins. They get to control screens, which box out other movies, which make other movies in lesser amounts of theaters and definitely lesser amounts of IMAX screens. It's all about control. It's about market manipulation on top of money. And above all things, Sony gets all the movie profits. And then when it goes DVD, when it goes on demand, and you can buy it to stream, whatever, Sony gets those dollars. Upon writing that check, out of bankruptcy, in 2000, they fast track. They're going forward. They're making their Spider-Man movie. That's when they decide, well, of course, the Spider-Man you're going to see is going to be reflective of being a teenager, even though he was played by a much older Tobey Maguire. He was a teenager. So they needed to have a teen product out there. Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimate Universe, was born to reflect that. Let's retell the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko stories with a fresh, modern lens, the modern eyes of 2000. And so that was the comic books wisely reflecting what was going to happen in the movies so that they didn't get left behind. Nowadays, it's all what's coming in the movies. Here's the calendar. Here's these benchmarks we're going to hit. You need to reflect this in your comics. There was none of that when Jim Starlin did his radical take on Adam Warlock, when he created Thanos in the pages of Iron Man, in the pages of Captain Marvel. There was none of that when Keith Giffen created Rocket Raccoon in some random black and white magazine. There was none of that when I was making Cable in Deadpool, or when Dark Phoenix happened, or when they introduced Alpha Flight, or when they introduced Venom. It was, how do we entertain the readership? How do we keep these people coming back to the comic books? Now it's, how do we reflect what's coming in these giant billion-dollar movies? Because these movies are getting more and more expensive. If you saw a couple weeks back, and here's the thing. This is the stuff that makes me just laugh so hard, is the accounting for the movies that are shot overseas in London have to be filed in the UK. And when they do, that tax stuff goes public, and now reporters are running with it. And you're finding out, oh, hey, these movies cost a lot more than they said they did. This movie cost $200 million more. This movie cost $100 million more. When the movie comes out, there's no studio that is doing this more often. There's more guilty of this practice. Marvel wants you to believe that they spent a lot less money than they did. They want you, because they know that they are going to be weighed by the box office. Bob Iger, Kevin Feige stood on platforms for 2 and 3 years and bragged, we're the biggest, we're the best, we make the biggest, we make the best. No other studios can touch us. Rah, rah, rah. Well, that works when it's happening, but when you're on the upside down of that, and now your movies are tanking and they're losing money, like Thunderbolts did, like Captain America, Red Hulk did, like Fantastic Four did, money loser, flop, flop, flop. You could say, but one made $500 million. It needed to make $700 million to break even. You're starting to find that out. Anybody who had any credibility about them, who was telling you this in July, is now being proven with the tax filings and the actual financials coming out. And they're still trying to hide the marketing. You know who doesn't hide their number? James Cameron. He sits at his chair being interviewed, and he said, look, these movies are super expensive. They cost together, $600 million, whatever, $300 million each. He doesn't hide it. Marvel wants to be seen as still victorious and having victory laps. And look at us, we're so successful, except the box office stopped cooperating with them. The box office has not reflected the success that they needed. Yeah, a Marvel movie opens at number 1 in an opening weekend, but it comes far short. It must have pained them to read when Variety and Hollywood Reporter and so many of these trades that used to rah and carry the water for them would be like, Thunderbolts is a flop. Thunderbolts will lose $100 million. Fantastic Four will lose $100 million. They used to carry the water. Now they don't. So why are the comics trying to reflect this? Yes, Doomsday is too big to fail. Let's just call it Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday. Doomsday is too big to fail. They've got 20 stars in it. It's got that must-see factor, which is now what movies are becoming. They have to reflect what's becoming the cinematic experience, which is you have to be akin to a theme park ride. You have to take me on a ride, make it an experience, something that is full of water cooler moments or spectacular visuals. And that is going to continue to be more and more expensive. I am on the record as believing, if you've ever been to Las Vegas and you've ever seen a show at the Sphere, I believe very firmly that movie theaters are going to start reflecting the Sphere in the next decade. IMAX is not going to be enough. You're going to have to do more. They've got all their different, XD. They've got all these different platforms that you can go see it. Some theaters are just that stuff now. It's IMAX, and then the specialty theaters, there are no normal theaters. Building the recliners and putting heaters in your seats have proven to not be enough because of our home theater systems are still incredible. I cannot believe the picture on my screen, no matter what I am watching, but it is never better than when it is sports. And during the NFL season, on weekends, it is harder than ever to pry people away, especially when you've got college on Saturday and the NFL on Sunday. Theaters are going to have to become more and more like theme park rides, very experiential in order to stay the course, because the theater owners are unfortunately dealing with now a generation that is very comfortable watching top flight entertainment at home and getting big superstars at home. The year-end reports are all about how movie stars are not opening movies. I mean, there's everyone's consensus is there's 4 or 5 movie stars left. Let's say 5. Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Margot Robbie, Leonardo DiCaprio, Timothée Chalamet. Okay? You don't want to hear the names of lists this fall that had movies come out that failed. But on the flip, as I've said, in comic books, people are showing up for talent. They're showing up for Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta, for Daniel Warren Johnson. At Image Comics, they're showing up for Todd McFarlane. They're showing up for Mark Silvestri. They're showing up for James Tynion. They're showing up for Robert Kirkman. They're showing up for me. We did an episode, the last bonus episode was about the rankings and how fraudulent they are. And a couple of people, screamed and kicked. You know why you're screaming and kicking? It's because you didn't expect somebody to expose it on that level. Here's one thing about comic books, and it pertains to everything that we're going to say today. I have become convinced, and I have met enough people over my 5 decades in this business. There are people deliberately invested in controlling, I'm going to call it the pig pen. The pig pen, they want comic books to be a pig pen. They want comic books to be an arena that they control. I'm fishing around here for a couple of statistics. See, my top listened to episode last year, I'm going to put it right here. Can you see it? My top listened to episode had 129,000 episode. That was my top episode of the year. My show on Spotify was in the top 5%. Top 5%. This is rising above the pig pen. Okay, this is rising above the pig pen. I reached 80 countries with my podcast, with this podcast right here. We on my show got a 2025 Rising Star Award. My show got a 2025 Most Talked About show. It said you received more comments than 99% of other shows. Robservations on Spotify. So I'm able to rise above the pig pen. I'm a 2025 marathon show. Fans listen to your show 99% longer than other shows, okay? This is in the Spotify Wrapped. You guys, the listening time to Robservations, right here, it says 7 years, was the equivalent to 7 years. The amount of people who listen to Robservations, I don't make these up. They are sent to me. They break it down. 94 months. 94 months of listening, okay? I could go on. It's pretty great. 410 weeks, okay? So you get these crazy stats, and I can rise above the pig pen. The people who control the pig pen want the comic book websites, the comic book articles. They want that to run the comic book industry. They can't, they don't, they won't. We can't let them. Again, you show up for talent. And when I saw the rankings in the Stockholm Syndrome, oh man, I'm the number 4th book at Image, and I'm number 4. And as I said, thank God, the guys at Image were like, Rob, no, that's completely untrue. It's up to you to figure out why that was pushed in the way it was. Another guy tried to say, hey, 100 stores is a good sample size. No, it's not. 10% of 30 of 3,000 is 300. Okay. So, we aren't even looking at 5%. So you're telling me 5% is a sample size? 5% of non-major chain stores? No. Get over it. Who's the biggest name? Who is the biggest name that you can think of at Marvel right now? Who's the big name? What's their big name? Because this is what got me thinking. It's the first time, whether I like these big name writers that they pushed above the artist or not, they do not have a Bendis, a Miller, a Jason Aaron, and even Jonathan Hickman has entered the I've written too much, like Brian Bendis. He has entered the discussion in regards to when you look at the amount of titles that he's written, he's getting to that point where you've written a lot of titles. So I'm putting his peak 2010 to 2020, and we haven't even mentioned the last superstar writer that Marvel had was Donny Cates. Last superstar writer that Marvel had was Donny Cates. Donny has been, he's become mysterious, you know. He's been off the stage, and when he comes back, I'm sure it's going to be a great big deal because people really like Donny's stuff. They were checking out everything that he did between Image and between Marvel. But right now, at Marvel Comics, so I'm going to answer some questions for you. What is the worst period for the X-Men of all space and time? The answer is right now. We're in it. What is the worst period for Spider-Man? The answer is right now. We're in it. Ditto the Avengers. The answer is right now. We're in it. These are the worst. I've been collecting and grabbing these comics since 1974. I am currently buying none of them. The reason for this, because look, and here's the deal. I'm a big sports guy. I inhale a lot of sports. I love sports. I love baseball. I love basketball. I love football. I love college basketball. I love college football. Just not the craziest hockey fan in the world, but I'll watch them in the playoffs. But I love sports. My kids played sports. Loved watching my daughter play soccer. My kids play basketball, football, all of it. There are cultures that are built in winning programs that result in certain teams and certain schools in the college system and in the pros, the teams being associated at the top. They talk about general managers. They talk about coaching. They talk about recruitment. They talk about the draft. All of these things also apply to comic books. How do I know this? When I got on to the X-Men, I was drafted. I was recruited. This level of recruitment is not happening in the comics industry. It hasn't been happening for a very long time. Guys like Jim Salicrup and Bob Harris are long gone. Jim Salicrup recruited me for Spider-Man. He immediately saw my work on Hawk and Dove and tried to get me to draw a story I turned down. Was a 2-part Peter David Spider-Man story. I just didn't click with it, didn't want to do it. I eventually agreed to do an Atlantis Attacks Spider-Man comic written by Jerry Conway, I believe, and it had She-Hulk, and it was fun. I was already doing a New Mutants Atlantis Attack, so that was like situationally that was a good idea for me to do at the time while I was waiting for my opening on New Mutants. But Jim Salicrup recruited me. Rob, he's such a good guy, such a great guy. But he told Rob, you want to play in the play box with your friend Todd. You want to be in the sandbox with Todd. You know you do. You could do spectacular. He would do amazing. This is before Todd was going to break off and do his own book. And I just knew that I wasn't sure that the Spider-Man world was ready for more than one great Spider-Man comic by Todd, because the Spider-Man books had been kind of down and out for so long, and Todd was certainly turning it around and making it one of the top sellers at Marvel again. But I also thought, well, I'm going to be compared to Todd because he's the pace horse. Getting back to management, I've said it many times, I took the very low-selling, very lowly regarded New Mutants book because I knew I could make an impact. I knew that was a house I could flip. I knew that I could make a career out of it, and I did. I was recruited by Bob Harris in the X-Men office. I was recruited by Jim Salicrup. Jim Salicrup ended up getting Eric Larson and coupling him with Todd McFarlane, and that was a powerhouse move. Bob Harris turned Brett Blevins into Rob Liefeld. Okay, he turned Paul Smith on X Factor into Will Spartaccio. He turned John Buscema into Mark Silvestri on Wolverine. He turned Mark Silvestri into Jim Lee. He made some tweaks in his lineup. really good recruitment, just like sports, just like athletics. Let me tell you something. In the locker rooms of Spider-Man and the locker rooms of X-Men from 1988, 89, 90, 91, spirits were high. People felt great. We came off the field each month with our books, and we were able to gather, and it was like, who's getting the game ball? Because one of us was. We were achieving at the highest possible level. We were super engaged. We were staying up late. In today's world, it'd be hitting the film room, hitting the playbooks, hitting the weights. We were after it. We had great coaching. I loved working alongside Bob Harris. His picture is right here alongside me. You know what? It's got the pin in it, but I did a 2-day shoot on the Levi spot for Spike Lee and the Button Your Fly campaign. There it is right there. This Polaroid is on my bulletin board next to me every day, and it has been for 30 plus years. Bob treated me great. Had a great experience with Bob. Enjoyed him. All the opportunities he gave me. I was dropping off pages to X-Force 2. I had that was May, so that's 2 months before X-Force number 1 is going to hit. And I've got to get X-Force 2 in the really swanky hotel that they put myself and Marat Michaels, who made the trip with me. I was doing like the pages from X-Force 2 where Shatterstar, where they're hunting Farrell on the grounds of the school. At the end of X-Force 2, I had already done the Deadpool Kane bridge sequences, and so that's the stuff. And I dropped it off. I put it there in the Levi spot. You'll see I'm actually inking one of those pages. So I carried them with me in my portfolio, and that's the stuff that I was inking after hours after the shoot and in the morning hours before arriving on set. Bob Harris recruited me. The guy was a crazy recruiter. When we left, he made sure the Kuberts were the focus of the X-Men books. He eventually grabbed Joe Madureira, blew him up, made him a superstar. Joe made himself a superstar, but he gave him the platform with which to get the eyeballs. Mark Bagley and several others continued to shine as Jim Salicrup continued to fight the good fight with the Spider-Man books. Recruitment matters. When we got to our studios, I started recruiting. I was looking at the very first Youngblood special. It was written by myself, Eric Stevenson, and drawn by a brand new kid named Chap Yap. I wasn't at the show, but Chap showed his samples to Marat Michaels and Dan Frega, both of whom I had recruited and had come to work for me. They carried Chap samples with me. They brought them to me after carrying with them from the show. I gave Chap a call that afternoon. I had seen enough from his samples to know that he was ready. Chap moved to Extreme. He worked under the roof of the studio. We all shared experiences, learning, and I did my best to get Chap on the fast track. But he didn't need a whole lot. He was pretty much ready at a very young age to be the breakout superstar penciler he was. I got an envelope, a bright pink envelope from a guy named Jeff Matsuda. I opened it. I realized he may have sent this to everybody in Image. I need to get on the phone. I made Jeff a giant offer in regards to what I was paying him per page. I believe it was $750 a page. Rookie. I thought he was that good. I said, I'll fly you out. I'll pick you up. I had a house called the Extreme House. I had bought in Orange that up to 4 or 5 guys were living at any given time until they made enough money working for me to go and get their own condo, house, whatever. I immediately contacted Jeff Matsuda. I made sure that I was the guy who recruited him. I have a checkered past with a guy named Stephen Platt because he worked at Extreme for about 6 years straight, and then upon leaving, decided that even though he was paid top dollar, best paid guy in the building, top dollar, he suddenly, I guess, all his hopes and dreams didn't come true. Pedro, from the platform in Napoleon Dynamite, telling everyone their hopes and dreams will come true. I guess we didn't put enough, new snack machines outside Extreme to satisfy Steven, no matter what we paid and compensated him. But he was starting to break on Moon Knight, so I called him. I made him another giant offer, $40,000 an issue if you pencil and ink it. If you don't, it'll be in the 25, 30,000 range. This is money up front, guaranteed. It's not my fault that he started making comics every 3 and 4 months instead of every month. And the schedule ground down. And trust me, it was also my coaching that said, we're going to find inkers that can adhere as close to your inking style as possible so that you can be as successful as possible, because inking yourself isn't really an option at this time. So recruiting matters. Jim Lee recruited. He got J. Scott Campbell. He got to him before any of the rest of us. Jay shared his stuff with me at a signing in Mile High Comics. I immediately offered him John. He said he'd already agreed to work with Jim Lee. Okay. I was a day late, $1 short. When we got our inking core, and I knew the backbone, if you're having all these rookie pencilers, you need to have a bunch of great finishers, a bunch of great inkers doing the deed. And so what I did was I made sure that Art Taber, Dan Panosian were on site every day, able to guide and direct and polish and finish some of these exciting young pencilers with their incredibly commercial and beautiful quality ink lines. That's called recruiting. I opened my checkbook. I made those connections. I reached out. I established that. And I made sure those guys were on the extreme side of things. The result of that was a refinement of all the talent that we had under the roof. Everybody inked better. Danny Mickey inked better. Norm Ratman inked better. John Sabal inked better. Marlo Alcaiza inked better. Jaime Mendoza inked better. Larry Stucker. All of them. If I'm missing anybody, apologies. It was an exciting time. It's called recruitment. Recruitment matters. What's happening right now is that Marvel is not having any success in recruiting. I can tell you, I won't name names, but people are turning them down right and left. Now, it's not always the smartest thing to turn down right and left. Scott Snyder could tell you, because based on everything that I heard over a 2-year period, was people who would tell me I turned down an opportunity to do an absolute book. Well, in hindsight, those people don't look very bright, because that ended up being a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Absolute Batman is 1,000% the superstar book of 2025, and it's bringing all new readers into the comic book market. And when they get there, they're stopping, they're looking around, and they want more. Whoever just goes in and wants one thing and walks out with one thing, that's not common, especially in comic books. People are going in, they're popping in, and they're under their arm. They're leaving with Transformers, G.I. Joe, Youngblood, Darkness, more DC books, DCKO, more Absolute Comics. This is what happens when excitement fills the comic book store. What they're not leaving with is Spider-Man and X-Men and a lot of these Marvel books that are selling at all-time lows. Can you imagine if Ryan Stegman had not attached himself to the last X-Men relaunch about 19 months ago? He was the only A-list name they had attached. Everybody else was kind of either having another run at it, some long in the tooth folks, or some fresh, never heard of them before folks. But Ryan was the guy that they built it all around on the flagship. He was the guy. Because that incredible run of his on Venom was such a big deal and garnered so much success and so much praise. I think he did really well, even though I think ultimately probably miscast. Todd McFarlane told me, I'm a solo book guy. I'm not a team guy. I think based on what I've seen, I think Ryan will shine more when he's back on a solo character. If Spider-Man isn't in Ryan Stegman's future at Marvel, then everybody did something wrong. And by everybody, I mean everybody in management. That is the future. That's what you got to have. You got to have Ryan Stegman on a Spider-Man book. If it's not back on Venom, whatever. There's guys, Iban Coelho. I met him. I praised him online for years. He would do fill-ins on Venom for Donnie and for Ryan. He came up and he handed me this beautiful, I cherish it, Venom drawing that he did for me in 2021, right after the pandemic. Super sweet guy. Couldn't believe how nice he was. He's a phenomenal talent. He is being miscast, underutilized at Marvel. Management is bad. Recruitment is bad. What they set out to do 20 years ago was get a bunch of overseas talent. And they've done that. And what they're left with now is not a lot of big names, if there's any big names. And all these books are the worst they've ever been. The answer to when is the worst period of X-Men is right now. It's right now. You can go ahead and throw rocks at me. You can pee in my coffee. It's not going to change. I've been around the block. I took New Mutants from a dumpster fire to the best-selling X-Men book in the office. And that wasn't X-Force number 1. That's New Mutants 100. No gimmicks. If you've listened to this show, that's my greatest accomplishment. The turnaround. And I put Cable, and I put Domino, and I put Deadpool, and I put Shatterstar, and I put Gideon. And I changed Proud Star's name to Warpath. I tweaked everything. I gave Farrell. She's got an action figure. I hit that book with a desperation and an excitement, and it exploded. And New Mutants 100 went on to sell 1 million copies, multiple printings, kept going back to press. That check was phenomenal. Those royalties were incredible. I still remember it as if it was, 26 years ago. Really exciting time, and that's what's lacking right now. Are they these corporate, hey, let's get together on a boardroom and plan out Marvel's future? That's not how it was done. Let me wrap this by telling you, that may have been how you planned Ultimate Spider-Man, and we're going to then do this homage to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko with the Lizard, and this homage with Green Goblin, and this homage, with Doc Ock. Stan and Steve Ditko were just making it happen. Jack and Stan were just making it happen. John Byrne and Chris Claremont were making it happen. Frank freaking Miller was just making it happen. He didn't go to a corporate retreat and beat out, this is where I can meet your corporate needs here, and dovetail into this bullshit crossover. It was just creativity run amok, run rampant. That's how you got Todd's Amazing Spider-Man. That's how you got my New Mutants and X-Force. That's how you got Jim Lee's X-Men, Mark Silvestri's best work of his career. They just let us go. I went to one corporate retreat at Marvel, and it was right as we were leaving for Image, to know that if I never went to another one, it would be too soon, way too soon, ever. And I never have, and I've heard nightmares from people who went to them. And nightmares, how they were run. And then when suddenly one day the sales marketing department showed up and said, we're going to decide which of these goes forward, because marketing is everything. When the marketing team decides that they're going to make the decisions, you're in trouble, okay? That may have worked once or twice. That's not a long-term investment. That's not a long-term plan for success. I go to Image Comics and I tell them, here's what I have planned. Here's what I'm bringing to the table. They don't go, well, Rob, we think you'd do better this. No, excitement breeds excitement. Next thing you know, Eric Stevenson's calling me and going, Rob, what if we did Youngblood Team Up Month? I just signed up for Invincible Team Up Month. I'm going to put Invincible on Youngblood covers to celebrate the Invincible Team Up Month. Just like there was Youngblood Team Up Month. Just like there was Spawn Team Up Month. The Team Up Months aren't the new thing. Participating in them is great, and when they work, when they click, and you get 30 amazing covers, as I was fortunate to do, as I was blessed to do, with freaking Gary Frank on Geiger and Brian Hitch on Redcoat and Scotty Young on I Hate Fairyland. When it works, you're like, oh my gosh, this is spectacular. The synergy's there. It's creators supporting creators with genuine excitement. It's not a corporate brouhaha. It's a click. Do you want to be part of this? Yes or no? If you did, you did. You did. If you didn't, you didn't. And so be it. There were creators who didn't participate with Youngblood Team Up. Do I look at them in any different light? No. They didn't have time to fit it in, or they had something else to do, whatever. I'm just so thankful for everybody who did. And maybe the next time some of those other people will jump on. But when I was traveling overseas, I had to decide, am I going to go all in on this? Am I going to go all in on this? Am I going to go half-ass? Because half-ass is comfortable in terms of marketing and promoting. Or am I going to go full bore? Full bore is going to leave a piece of me on the side of the road. I decided to go full bore. I'm going to go full bore. Right now, what's going on in Marvel, we can see into what's happening in April, and you can see what's coming in summer. They're planning their fall events right now. I've got my summer solicitations to get to. Do you know the next solicitation that I have to fill out is for May, is for spring? January's done, February's done, March is done, April was filed, okay? Comics are always planning in advance. Marvel is planning for midsummer projects right now. And they're looking down at the end of 2026. And we know nothing and we hear nothing. and maybe the return of Brian Bendis is going to be the thing that lights your candle. Okay, if that's it, bully for you. You know, of all the great artists that he worked alongside, that whether it was Frank Cho, Dave Finch, Steve McNiven, none of those guys are there anymore. They're all gone. I saw that for their big, is it Avengers 1000, some big giant number, that they got Mark Bagley to do an Avengers cover with him, and their biggest claim to fame was the Ultimate Spider-Man, which was retelling you Stanley and Steve Ditko stories. And it made me think, all those guys are gone. Finch is gone. Cho is gone. Maybe they can get Frank Cho back. He's probably a free agent. Steve McNiven's at DC now. Jimmy Chung, maybe they can re-sign Jimmy Chung. Maybe they can bring Olivier Coipel out of his DC projects that he's doing. DC generated enough excitement. People always want to be where the excitement's at. They want to be where the excitement's at. Creators are, they migrate to excitement. It's like my buddy who for years wouldn't go to UCLA games. My father-in-law had tickets on the 50-yard line, 10 rows back. They were the best seats ever. UCLA has never burned it up. He got most excited, I think it was 90, 98, 99 when they contended. UCLA was the only time they contended to be in the conversation before these, different playoff structures that were introduced in the last 25 years. It was the closest they came. They had the most standout talent. My wife's two sisters went to UCLA. My daughter is going to be graduating from UCLA. So we're a Bruin family. These seats were unbelievable. If you didn't like the Bruins, come watch them play Washington, Oregon, USC. Well, two of my buddies turned me down. And they told me, and at that time this was true, I knew them. I knew this to be true. We don't like college football. We're not college football guys. Fair enough. No hard feelings. 2 years later, I'm driving up to Rubio's here in town. I'm getting out of the car. I'm approaching it, and they're both coming out. Head to toe Trojan gear. SC hats, SC shirts. It's a weekday. This is not game day, okay? This is not a weekend. I said, oh, look at the two of you. Look at the two of you. I don't like college football. Whoa, I guess that doesn't hold anymore. Guy said, well, I mean, come on, Rob. They're like our pro team. They're not my pro team. I mean, they're so successful. They're like LA's team. They're not my LA's team. Bandwagon. People go where the excitement is. SC was absolutely generating a ton of excitement in those mid-Pete Carroll years before he ran off to Seattle because he was going to get investigated. Those the 2000s. Did I love when Texas beat them in the national championship? Did the roof of my house kind of blow off with my excitement? It did. Not a Trojan fan, but I respect that they were generating excitement, and they were kind of like a pro team because now these guys are wearing their gear. They had never worn college gear. I had never seen them. We're in our 30s when this is happening. These are grown men. They're our pro team because there were no Rams and Raiders in Los Angeles. So it perfect time, perfect storm. Creators are the same way. They go where the excitement is. Where's the buzz? Where's the label? Where can I get the most juice? DC is leading that charge right now. Image is right, running alongside with them. There's a ton of excitement at both companies. Guys, if there was a great Marvel comic, we'd be talking about it. You'd be talking about it. I'd be reflecting what you're saying about it. You're not talking about it because it's not. And one of the things, when I said character isn't the thing anymore, what happened in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s? Lots of new characters, right? Lots of new characters. What happened in the 2000s is those were discouraged because the deals weren't there anymore. Recently there was a creator who came out and retracted their statements immediately. It was very obvious they were reached because I think they're part of a plan for some books in 2026. But a creator, another one, whined about how they don't participate. And it was interesting watching the discourse, watching the people weigh in. Ultimately, it was the character is undeniably a derivative. And that is what has marked so much of. That derivative can stand in a line of 100 derivatives over the last 20 years. It's not just Spider-Man. It's Captain America. It's Iron Man. And now, guys, it's Wolverine. Helverine, really? Not a fan. Not a Helverine guy. Old Man Logan, Wolverine wears a skeleton mask. Anatomy, I don't know, is a chrome mask. There's so many different Wolverines, iterations. There's X-23. There's, What was once special, one single Wolverine, Ultimate Wolverine. There's a ton of this. It waters it down so that the characters can't possibly generate excitement without the benefit of a next level creator. I've got to imagine they've asked Danny Warren Johnson to do Wolverine. He is the most obvious of all obvious moves. Why that's not happening, I'm going to guess the numbers aren't there. And whoever's running the numbers can't make whatever the ask is work. Because I got to believe at some level, it's kind of the knowest duh of all the knowest does that you could possibly imagine. The creators have flocked to other ports. They're at Image, they're at DC. During all that creator about the derivative and making their noise, which again, they retracted and they never said they didn't say what they said. They never said that it wasn't the saddest day of their life, which is what the quote was, and they didn't deny saying that, but they didn't like that there had been so much attention drawn towards it. Well, the only reason the attention was drawn towards it was because it came out of your mouth. During this, a lot of the discourse on X, on Threads, on TikTok, on Instagram was, well, what about Bendis? What does he have to say about this? To my knowledge, I'm not sure if he weighed in. I didn't pay that close of attention. But one of the comments said, Bendis was the closest thing Marvel ever had to a made man. I read that and I was like, that's very true. I would support that. They preferred him. I never will understand why in my Civil War hardcover, under Mark Millar's bio, we all called him Millar until he told us to call him Miller. Under his bio, Mark Millar has done great things at Marvel alongside Brian Bendis. Why is Bendis in his bio? He's in the Civil War bio. They couldn't just let Mark be his own bio. It's very strange. Bendis was the made man of made men, okay? And it really kind of, has you thinking, who's the made man at Marvel now? Can you tell me who? For the last 5 years? The reason you can't think of one is because there isn't one. Because at this point, they're on the other side of those conversations. They're not getting the recruits. I believe Marvel's at an all-time historic low of my lifetime in regards to every single comic book they're producing. Okay? It makes me run back to the good stuff, and thankful for all of us. They know how to get the good stuff in our faces, whether it's facsimiles, whether it's True Believer, whether it's all of their different reprints, the epic collections that I buy them. What do you think I'm buying at these Barnes & Nobles? Oh, there's a reprint of great 1970s, 1980s Fantastic Four. Boom, done. I just paid $40 at the cash register. So thank you, Marvel. I'm paying for the privilege of that money spends. My money spends, it goes back to you. Because you were smart enough to reprint the really good stuff. The good stuff's still out there. Go back, find it. It's digital. It's tactile. It's available in collections. Again, like I said, Ultimate Spider-Man, Barnes & Noble did an omnibus, special omnibus. I bought it. I love the packaging. I love the marketing. I loved having it all in one. I mean, good God, that's like almost 20 years ago I bought this thing. It was a fun, like, hey, let's reintroduce the greatness of Stan and Steve Ditko. And I'll always believe that Steve Ditko and those Rose Galleries, I'll say it again for you right now. What kind of mind is able to give you the Rhino? I'm not sure about the Rhino. I'm going to put the Rhino aside. Is able to give you Mysterio, Sandman, Kraven, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, the Vulture. Good God. Steve Ditko's mind, his designs, his artistry, his style. Once in a lifetime. On my Mount Rushmore. One of the greatest of all space and time. Of course you want to reintroduce that. So it was brilliant to bring it up because those Spider-Man, come on, Spider-Man 2002, big hit. Sequel, big hit. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the first two are some of the best of the comic book movies. And they were wise to get retreads of that story, to represent those stories in a 2000 lens, make them more of that time than the old-timey feel that some people may have experienced when looking at the Stan and Steve stuff, the true, blueprint of greatness. We'll see what happens this year, but as far as recruits go, Marvel's not getting them. And as far as new talent and big names, We haven't read about them next. I hope the day this lands that there's 3 great names. That would tell me that the Marvel comics that I loved is going to build back up. I pray that they make the comic books the priority, not aligning themselves corporately with whatever's going on. Come on. Is Dr. Doom going to look like Robert Downey Jr. in the comics now? Are we going to not have the Victor Von Doom that we loved, that we grew up, that my generation grew up, the generation behind me grew up? We'll wait and see. Certainly, Downey Jr. has paid for his money in stunt casting. Maybe the one good move Feige did in the last 5 years, other than get out of everybody's way on Deadpool Wolverine. So we'll see. But the recruiting, it's the same in athletics. What's your environment? Where's your winning culture? Who are the guys calling the shots, the coaches, putting together the winning teams, the winning storylines, the classic moments? What classic moment happened in Marvel this last year? It didn't. There's the problem. You know what classic moment happened at DC? Absolute Joker, absolute, Bane. Absolute Batman was, made its debut in 2024, but that book has grabbed the mantle. It is the uncanny X-Men of my youth. That is what Absolute Batman is. It is obvious to anyone with a pair of eyes. Even with your sensory application, the minimal sensory application, Absolute Batman is a big deal. It's driving the machine. And we should be thankful for it, and we are thankful for it. Marvel, there is no classic moment that was released this last year. They are as close to running on fumes as I've ever seen any company. If I'm wrong, let me know. Please don't give me a bunch of names. Oh, but they have this. No. I've read your list of names, and I'm going to tell you, come on. Are those list of names in the same echelon? And some of those guys, I happen to know some of those names. A couple of those aren't going to be there. They're leaving. They're signing exclusives somewhere else. So some of those names aren't even going to be there. So maybe wait and see what comes out in April. Hey, right now, it's anniversaries. It's Spider-Man's, Superman's 50th anniversary. Next year, it's going to be Star Wars. They are going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Star Wars till they're blue in the face. You're going to see your Marvel Star Wars team-ups, your heroes combined finally. That they have let everybody and their mother know. They are interviewing talents. But like I said, I know people who've turned down big gigs. Big giant names are saying no more often than not. Marvel isn't used to hearing no. You want to know why Marvel hears no? Because they have no excitement. They're generating no excitement. You know where they're generating excitement? In the video games. Marvel Rivals. That's where their excitement is. And they relate to the game as we covered to reflect that in the comic books, because they're not taking those risks. The rival stuff should have been not running to catch up 3 months later after it was at its peak in February. It should have been there right then. I'm going to close this because a lot of you guys have asked me about the Netflix, Warner's, Paramount, Warner's. Here's the thing. Who cares? Does my logic brain and guys, hopefully one of the things you enjoy about this I run this podcast as how I run my career, practically, with practical minded thinking. I approach everything with a very practical mindset, a very practical approach. I can't allow to be a wishful thinker. I have to take what is practical and what is applicable and put those into motion to get the results that I'm looking for. And a lot of that involves hard work, some networking, but most of it, it's being able to look at something honestly, not through a hype factor. Look at it honestly and assess it. And I've got my blind spots. I thought I was the number 42 book in the month of November. That's a blind spot. I accepted that. Then I realized, wait, what? I'm in the top 10? Okay, so I've got my own blind spots, guys, and I'm going to keep pounding that because it's worth pounding. Those lists are garbage. Don't look at them. There is no definitive best-selling list. There is none. There's, Tom and Dick and Harry have theirs over here, and Martha and Jonathan have theirs over here. They're not the same. Like I said, your top 3, top 5, you're going to be able to know what those are. But then from there, it gets dicey. And the reason that they don't want to tell you the real numbers is because you're going to be shocked if you find out what fill in the blank sells. My practical, logical mind says that Netflix was a company that used to send me tactile discs as movies, and I'd mail them back. And then one day they realized we press a button and they get a stream, and we carry the waves, and they like to beam out products across Wi-Fi, okay? That's what Netflix does now. Do I believe that they want to be in the publishing business? I don't. Is there any reason to be alarmed for DC for the next 12 to 15 months? No. DC's got its budget for 2026. It's going to spend it. What happens in 27 and beyond? They'll probably get an approval for a 27 budget, but whether it's Paramount or whether it's Netflix, there will be a reassessment. What that's going to look like, nobody knows. But if it's Netflix, probably less likely that not that DC Comics will continue, guys. That's not the question. It's will DC Publishing be licensed out to other people? And I'm going to tell you right now, the phone calls that I've been on the receiving end of. Hey, Rob, you want to join this consortium? We're raising money. We're going to try and license DC Comics when they come up for license in the next year because Netflix is going to let them go. Paramount's not going to keep it. This is the chatter that's out there. Nothing's going to change in the next 15, 16 months. Probably not the 2 years. 2 years is a long time. There is no reason to bang the pans to cause any alarm. And here's the big reason why I don't care. In January of 2034, Superman is in the public domain. I am drawing Superman, Badrock, Superman, Youngblood. Now, I won't be able to call him Superman. I won't have a logo that says Superman. That's okay. You'll know it's him. Just like there's Mickey Mouse commercials. You can call him Steamboat Willie, but we know he's Mickey Mouse. There's big, giant, multi-million-dollar insurance companies that are currently right now, during your sports broadcast, during your news broadcast, running Mickey Mouse ads, running the Steamboat Willie footage. And at the end it just says, the Walt Disney Company does not cooperate with this ad. Okay. They put their disclaimer on there. But it's been almost 2 years. Mickey Mouse, Steamboat Willie is running everywhere. Yeah, I've seen comic books. There's multiple comic books. Posters, merch, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, all of it's out. There's no reason to believe that it's not going to stay the course. 1 year later, Batman. 2035, Batman. Superman is the first domino, then Batman. When I look at Supergirl, and I really like the trailer, by the way, really enjoyed it, looking forward to it. I dig the whole vibe. I dig her. I think it all works. Lobo is going to explode. I go, well, Supergirl's a good face because Superman is going to be co-opted by everyone. If you don't think that I've talked to 30 other creators, all of whom plan on giving you their version of the public domain Superman, which will, of course, be reflective of that story. Guys, I've become a student of that story. Yes, he can't fly. He'll have to be running real fast or jumping. But bullets were bouncing off his chest. He pulled chains. He knocked down steel doors. He's super strong. He's super fast. He looks in a way that is familiar to how you know Superman. Batman, more so. 2026, we're about to ring the bell in 2026. I can already see to the end of 2026. By 2027, oh my gosh, it's going to be no time till we get Superman. Why am I drawing it right now and putting it in the drawer and not promoting it? Because I want to be this version of Rob Liefeld that draws it, not the guy who can't see anymore and the hand doesn't function, okay? And the eye-hand coordination isn't there. The shaky hand syndrome. These characters are going to the public domain in a way that Marvel's aren't. And Wonder Woman follows soon thereafter. I mean, you guys, it just starts rolling one after the other. The public domain thing is a bigger issue for DC Publishing than any will DC be licensed or will they publish themselves, okay? The consequences of what's going on with DC. I mean, maybe Green Lantern becomes the focal point of the whole line because Superman and Batman are going to be everywhere. Let me repeat that again. Superman and Batman. You think Todd McFarlane's going to pass up a chance to have Superman and Batman standing alongside Spawn in a storyline that says Spawn, the finest world storyline? Okay, that's the kind of stuff Todd's going to do. We're all going to do it. You don't think Invincible's going to suddenly run into a guy that looks exactly like, and we're all going to call him a name. You know, what's your name? I'm not going to say my name, but they're trying to roll out as many names possible to keep you from names. You know, guy who bends steel, whatever. Super Leaper, but he's going to look like Superman. The public domain thing that we've discussed here, there is a dedicated public domain. I walked you through all the legalities of it, and it was one of the most celebrated episodes because I really took my time, really did my research, talked to my attorney friends, presented it to you. It's a couple years back now. Go back into the library and listen for that episode. What a fun time. Man, do I love talking comics. Marvel, be better, do better. We want you to win. We want to have a buzzy Marvel comic that we can talk about next year that's driving people to comic stores in a way that Absolute Batman is, in a way that the big Image comics are. The fans want Marvel to be better than Marvel is. The fact Marvel's just not cooperating. Marvel's just not cooperating. Guys, this week, get to the stores. Youngblood 2 is out. It's going to sell out. It's already out. What I know that you don't know is that there's going to be I spent this weekend drawing the second print cover to Youngblood 2 and drawing the third print cover to Youngblood number 1 because I want to have fresh stuff out there. I want you guys to show that I care. If you care, I care. Really excited that this stuff is going to be out there. Really excited that you're going to be able to participate. Really excited that it's going to be like, generating this kind of excitement. Youngblood 2 is going to sell out faster than Youngblood 1 did. If you thought Youngblood 1 sold out fast, Youngblood 2 is going to sell out faster. We put out 10,000 second editions of Youngblood number 1. That's sold out. The second prints of Youngblood are gone. They're sold out. You are not going to have enough of those to grab, and I thank you. Thank you for being excited about Youngblood. Thank you for showing up like you did for Youngblood number 1. I'm just thankful that 27 retailers thought that it was worthwhile that they participated in that book and did those variants. I'm glad that 30 creators did Youngblood team-up comic books. I've tried to promote each and every one of them. If I missed out, let me know. I will get on that horn. Youngblood 2 out December 17th. Grab it. Youngblood 3 is already gone. It's at the press. You're going to have it in January. We are going to continue to deliver this comic. Youngblood 4 is, get ready. The end of Youngblood 3 is, I can't wait for you to experience it. And then Youngblood 4, and then when 6 hits, that's a reset to issue 100, and the book will have hit 100, and we are off to the races. And guys, there was a reason I was on a chain with my image buddies. There was a reason I was on a chain with Mark Silvestri and Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson and Jim Valentino and Robert Kirkman and Eric Stevenson and Eric Larson. Okay, we're gonna do some fun stuff. Thank you for supporting Youngblood. Get to your store. Grab Youngblood this week. It's on sale December 17th. Thank you for selling out Youngblood number 1. Thank you for selling out Youngblood number 2. It means the world to me. Thank you. I am so just incredibly blessed. Thank you. Thank you. One more time, thank you. Guys, when I'm not doing this show and talking about public domain DC characters or how this was the worst year Marvel's ever had, and that's just the movies. Dun-dun-dun. I'm all over X. I'm at Robert Liefeld, RobertLiefeld. I have a blue check, signifies it's really me. I'm the genuine article. Come hang out with me. Let's talk. I love a lot of fresh faces. Thank you, all the new people who are joining me on X. Love talking to you. Love hanging out with you. Love sharing comic book, pop culture, movie, sports. I am at Robert Liefeld, RobertLiefeld. There it is again, blue check. Look for me there. I can't wait to read your DMs, your messages, your comments. Thank you for interacting with me. I dig it so much. On Instagram, I'm at Rob Liefeld, RobertLiefeld, blue check. Genuine article, the real deal, that's me. I'm reading your comments, your messages, your DMs, your replies. Thank you so much for interacting with me. We're trying to do some fun stuff on Instagram. Me and Scotty, I call him the boss. We're trying to put together some really engaging, fun content. I have a blast on recording days when we do segments, and I hope you're enjoying them. Thank you. We are seeing a ton of new faces. When you want to see previews of new books, art, what's coming next, stuff that I'm working on, whether it's my live stream or my comic books, you're going to see it first on Instagram at Rob Liefeld on Instagram. We hope to have you and have you join us and look forward to interacting with you there. On TikTok, I'm Rob Liefeld. Can't wait to see you. Our TikTok has exploded. Thank you for joining us. We are trying to, again, give you some fun content, kind of share who I am, the genuine kind of my real being, my real essence. I love comics. I love sharing about all things comic books, whether it's Instagram, X, or TikTok. Follow me on TikTok at Rob Liefeld. I have a group. It's on Facebook. It's called Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. We would love to have you join us. Myself and Terry Sala, Sala. We are the moderators of that group. We were the guys that click you in. We have art contests. We have incredible talent. We have great discussions. We talk the business of comics. We talk comic book fandom. Everyone there is wondering why Marvel has stumbled so badly. It is on everyone's mind. We're talking about it because it's what's being talked about. Come join us, Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. It's our group, and we will be talking all through the holidays. We are super active during the holidays. Everyone's going to be sharing all their stuff, and just gotten to know so many amazing people over there. Feel like I've made lifelong friends in that group. Love for you to be a part of Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. It's a group. It's on Facebook. Guys, Whatnot is the live stream that I frequent the most. Get that app. Download Whatnot. Go to the comic section or just type in Rob Liefeld and follow me. You will be alerted when I go live. We have a 5-star rating for a reason. We deliver quality comics on time. Custom signatures. Here, so this incredible Cowabunga Comics did a Youngblood 2 variant. And I drew these on my live stream, okay? I shared these drawings. I actually did them live. I drew these on the live stream. There's Chapel, okay? We did the whole team. These incredible variants from Cowabunga Comics. This is a variant. Go on their site, get Cowabunga Comics. They're somebody who did a retail variant, but I grabbed my comps and I started drawing on them. This is the kind of stuff that happens during the live stream. Also, here is a exclusive variant of the second print, the New Mutants 98 homage. This is a chisel signature. It's kind of the way I carve my signature out or chisel it. I call it the chisel. And there's my my story. Last Blood is a comic you can only get from me. That Last Blood has never been in stores. There's 3 different editions, 3 different issues. Last Blood is a comic you can only buy from me via a live stream. So there's a lot of fun going on during our Whatnot live streams. I would love to have you join us. Custom signatures, custom comics, variants, foil editions that you can't get anywhere else. I make a generous amount of exclusives just for the live streams where you can't get them at your store. And sometimes you can't even get them on my website. RobLiefeldCreations.com is my website where I offer a lot of exclusives. But the most exclusives, the most rare stuff, print runs of 60 copies, 80 copies, very low print runs are what we do on Whatnot, our live stream. We would love to have you join. Follow Rob Liefeld. Be alerted when I go live. We will look forward to seeing you there. Wow. So much fun. You guys, the holidays are almost here. I took a month off. I am so rejuvenated. I am ready to attack 2026. This may be a final bonus episode of 2025. Maybe I'll be back one more time. Maybe not. 2026 is going to be a blast. 2025 exceeded every possible dream. Broke away from Marvel. Said goodbye. Someday I'll tell you about the books they keep offering me. Okay, because that's happening. That's not going to happen. The entire regime has to change. Everybody at Marvel has to go, and then perhaps fresh faces will want to come in and make exciting stuff for them, and maybe they can lay off the derivatives because we don't need 20 Spider-Mans and we certainly don't need 15 Wolverines. 2026 is going to be great. 2025 exceeded every possible hope and dream that I had. Hope you're well. Hope your family's doing well. Hope you are where you need to be spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Holidays, they can absolutely be tough. We've got some family going through some rough stuff right now, some emotional stuff. Yeah, this time of year can be a double-edged sword, and I'm going to be thinking of you. I'm going to be praying for you. I'm going to be lifting you up. I appreciate that you guys give this show your time, that you listen to me. I've been around the block, people. I speak from a place of wisdom, and from this place of wisdom, I know that life is about people. Life is about building us up, building people up. Lord knows I've taken shrapnel because all of you guys have cared and been so generous and kind to me. The shrapnel, I shrug it off. And I want to be that for you right now. I want to help you out. I want to lift you up. I want to care for you. And I hope that you are doing well as we head into Christmas and New Year's, Hanukkah, whatever, however you celebrate or recognize the holidays. And, hopefully you're going to be able to be given an automatic reprieve from the grind. I always tell you, get off the grind. Take time for yourself, especially, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, and make sure that this time of year you go out, grab that coffee, grab that ice cream, get that sundae, get that Reese's Big Cup, stuff it in your mouth like I do. Oh my gosh, overwhelmed with the delicious flavor of chocolate and peanut butter on a level that no one should ever take for granted. Have a great meal. Have a great time. Seek out friendship. Give love. Be generous. Be kind. Really appreciate the way that you return to the show and the favor you've given us. Those stats I showed you, that's because of you. That is a result of your favor, and I am grateful at this time of year more than ever to be receiving of that. I want to give it back and just lift you up, tell you how much I care about you. Thank you for listening to this show. If for whatever reason it's 2026 when we talk again, have a great holiday season. If I see you on the other side of Christmas. Then we'll talk about New Year's some more. Comic books are really in an interesting place. Can't wait to continue to discuss them and all the great big giant stew that comic books has become. And do not leave me here. You know, I'm going to say it as calmly as I can, or should I get it ramped up? Don't leave me here. I'll be right there. No matter what, I'm still going to be here. You're going to swing by. You're going to pick me up next time. You're not going to leave me at the side of the road. I'm going to jump in with you. We're going to do this together. We are most definitely, we are absolutely, we are inevitably, you and me, we're going to talk again real soon.